Hello guys, Mr. Mold here. Once again, we have a story that we want to bring to your attention. I'm here with somebody who in such a short period of time we've created a huge dynamic for many different reasons, but one of the biggest common denominators that we have is that there's mold in the picture. And I have my friend Gladys here, and basically we're going to be talking about mold contamination. You guys know that I've always talked about, the first symptoms and how the disease progresses into different stages. You guys are going to be blown away from just some of the testimony and the things that she's got to say and that she wants to share, because more than anything, the biggest goal here is to really make the awareness, to make sure that others don't have to go through this. I mean, we always, we always have this song and dance about, hey guys, you guys make sure that if you have any of the symptoms, the musty odor, if you have anything in the air, the indoor air quality, relative humidity, all these things that doesn't seem right, we're going to show you how far this thing could get, and to the degree of just consuming somebody's lifestyle to the point of no return. And I'll let her, I'm not going to steal the thunder, but you guys are going to see that mold contamination is no joke. For those of you who think that this is something that you could just easily wipe off, clean off, and not have it professionally eradicated, you're going to get another look at what this thing really does. So stay tuned right now. In the next few minutes, we're going to start the interview and basically give you all the information that you guys need. So Gladys, it's a pleasure having you here today.
Thanks,
it really is. It's a true honor that you really want to share your story. I mean, some of these things I know may be a little bit delicate, and they may take you to some dark places and dark times in your life. But at the end of the day, we know why we're doing this. We're doing this because we really want to help people out.
Absolutely.
And we want to make sure that we want other people that are exposed to mold not to have to go through the degrees of pain and anguish that you have experienced.
Correct.
So we'll take it, kind of like from the beginning. I always talk when I do my videos of preventive things that you could do for mold and everything else. I always talk about, when there's smoke, there's fire. When there's that musty, earthly odor, then more than likely you have hidden or latent mold. I talk a lot about the first signs that you start to get, like, the sneezing, the coughing, the headaches, and the, chronic fatigue. And we've all know that, a lot of the doctors, 5 years ago, if there was a handful of doctors in the nation that really knew about mold contamination and mold-related illness was too much. Now, it's a rapid evolution, and this is part of the reason. People like us trying to really get the information out there, so to educate others, and not only that, but hopefully get the environmental approach where we get other doctors trained by the experts, and literally the guys that you and I know that wrote the book. I'm sure you would agree that some of the books, that Dr. Shoemaker, for instance, has written, it's like the Bible when it comes to mold.
For sure.
So having said that, I'm going to leave the floor to you, and just start from the very beginning. What were the first signs that you noticed when you first got exposed to mold?
Sure. Well, it was about November 28th of 2016. I moved into what I thought was my dream home. Beautiful two-story house, had a lake in the back. I thought it was like a new chapter in my life. I was super excited. Moved into this home. And a few days after I moved in, the house ended up getting flooded with sewage. Well, they sent a remediation company out, which I didn't know that the house had mold at the time. That actually made everything, 50 times worse.
Sure.
Anyways, there was an AC guy that came in to supposedly fix the AC. Well, as he was fixing the AC, I said, hey, why are you here? I had just moved in a few days. He goes, oh no, because, the bill might be high, so I wanted to, change a part. So when he took out the AC door, because the AC is usually covered, I saw this big black thing of mold. Mind you, at the time, I didn't know anything about mold.
Right.
Mold is not something that you're taught about in life or in school. They tell you it's bad, but you don't really know the extent of what mold is, how it affects the human body, how deadly it truly can be, which through the past year and a half, I definitely discovered.
Okay.
So, not knowing at the time, I saw that black mold, didn't think anything of it, but I knew enough that it was bad. So, to make a long story short, I had to get an attorney involved because the whole house had gotten flooded with sewage, which at the time made everything worse. Well, when I had the house, I called somebody to come in and do a test for the mold. It was some rinky-dink, guy that I had seen in a car in front of me that said mold, Anyways, they came out and they did an air sample in the bathroom of the bottom floor. And he's like, oh no, the results came back, no, there's no mold. I was like, okay. So, I gave the house a second chance, thinking, oh, okay, well, there's no mold. Even though I had seen the black thing of mold and the AC thing, and I didn't know.
Did you have the musty odor, and did you have some of the first signs that you received? Did you get the headaches? Some of the things
that came after.
Okay.
So I had the house tested a second time with a second opinion because I knew something was wrong. Because what started to happen was that I started realizing I started getting super sick. So mind you, I'm the healthiest person prior to walking into that house that you could ever meet. I was never sick. I never went to the doctor. Excellent health. Well, from that house, I started getting headaches, stomach aches. I got vertigo for 9 days. I got severe brain fog to the point where you would talk to me and I didn't even know what you were saying. I work with pharmacies and I have my own company, and I literally started getting a memory loss to the point where I would leave my keys at pharmacies 4 times in one day. Like, I would go to the car and I'd be like, where's my keys? And I would literally have to walk back to remember where my keys was. So it gave me severe memory loss. Then from there, I started getting inflammation in my gut and in my brain. My brain started feeling like it was literally under siege, where the inflammation was so bad that it felt like basically like having a balloon in my head. And so obviously I didn't know at the time, but mycotoxins, were definitely, I was inhaling them. And then also the house air was so toxic, which later on I hired a second opinion company. And what they found, because they use more advanced technology like infrared cameras, they did another air sample, but in the AC unit and upstairs, which was where the mold was, because it was hidden. So a lot of these mold that's maybe in a house is actually hidden. It was in the attic, it was in the AC unit, it was in things that I would have never seen had that guy never even took that out. But I really felt like God protected me and actually allowed me to see, so I kind of had a clue it was mold. But it got so bad that I literally had made some food. The next day I ate leftovers. That leftovers within that 24 period of time got so toxic that when I ate that leftover picadillo, I ended up getting so sick that I was in fetal position in my room where I couldn't even physically move. And I was like, oh my gosh, I ate food and I was like in fetal position to the point where I thought I was gonna die. The second sign that I knew something was definitely really wrong with the house was that I had a hobby that I loved, which was I had a saltwater fish tank. Well, when I went to change the water on my saltwater fish tank, I opened up the thing to change the water, and all of a sudden, I guess when the air mixed with the water from the salt, and I was literally changing the water, which you have to do periodically, I noticed that all my fish literally started to die. I had a shrimp named Jesus. I had a fish named Dory. I had a fish named Nemo, because I had little Nemo and Dory, and all of them died one by one. And I was like, what is going on? Why are my fish dying?
You thought that it was the water that was contaminated.
I thought it was the water that was contaminated. So that I literally, in the middle of this process, ran to my fish store in Kendall. I lived in Cutler Bay at the time. Ran and I said, why are my fish dying? And he said, there's nothing wrong with my water. That's the same water I've been giving you for a year. I got it out of the ocean. He goes, there must be something wrong with your house. And I go, what could be wrong with my house? I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I didn't realize that house, learning now, later, the house air had become so toxic, had become so polluted, had become so filled with mycotoxins and aflatoxins that it literally, I almost died. And what I have been through in a year and a half, I ended up losing all my belongings. Everything that I owned went to the garbage, not once, but multiple times. The house was so toxic that it ended up cross-contaminating my car, because I didn't know that when I brought stuff from the house and I put it in my car, it was going to cross-contaminate my car. I didn't know that the items from the house were so toxic that when I brought them to my boyfriend's house or my daughter's grandmother's house, it cross-contaminated their house. it gave me a condition called chronic inflammatory response syndrome and biotoxin illness.
How did you come to that conclusion that you had that? And before we go there, I want to just touch upon, so for those that don't know what mycotoxins are, so you have the mold, and I want to make sure that they understand that the mold produces what's called MVOCs, which are microbial volatile organic compounds.
Correct.
Just like the compounds in chemicals that are very strong, that have all these labels underneath your sink that are very toxic, these are MVOCs. They're the same volatile organic compounds, but they're microbial. And then right on the surface of the actual mold, you have these mycotoxins, which are poisonous gases.
Right.
And these are the poisonous gases that you're describing, and those are the ones that will actually get you sick. But when before you were diagnosed, I'm sure you had to go through first your primary doctor, and a lot of times I always describe that people have to go through around the world and back, and going through all these diagnostic testing, and usually the first doctors, which are your GP or even some of the other specialists like a pulmonologist and so on and so forth, they go through all these course of treatments. And I know that these doctors are doing what they know by textbook and what they learned, but I've also learned myself that doctors know as much about mold as they do about nutrition, which is not a whole lot, unfortunately.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how long and what that course was, that process.
So first of all, what I found with what I went through, which was my worst living nightmare, is that the regular doctor is trained on the Carnegie and the Rockefeller principle. Almost every doctor that I have found out there has absolutely no clue about mold toxicity and about toxicology. They're just not trained in this area of expertise. So doctors were completely, they were basically of no worth to me at the time, because they just didn't know. They were not trained. I was teaching the doctors about, TGF beta 1, T3, about genetic testing, because I had found out through researching Dr. Shoemaker's protocol and learning about mold, because I didn't know absolutely anything at the time. I was forced, because when you're dying and you're seeing your body literally break down and deteriorate, and you're going from one symptom to the next symptom, and your whole world is spinning because you get vertigo for the first time in your life, and you're literally feeling this crazy inflammation, and you're seeing your gut and you can't eat anything. I ended up losing 14 pounds, where I looked almost anorexic. I couldn't eat sugar anymore. I had to go on a gluten-free diet. I couldn't have bread anymore, because every little thing I ate triggered inflammation. And
because now your antibodies are considering those, they're aliens to your body, things that you would normally have before without a problem.
Right.
All of a sudden, because of the cytokine process,
and because of the mycotoxins in my body. Yeah.
Exactly. Now all of a sudden, your body is completely attacking any new invaders that are coming in, even if they're healthy, foods and different things that you've had before.
So what I found is that people who are immunosuppressed, or that have had any kind of other issue in their life, and what I've learned through this whole journey is that about 28% of the population has a genetic predisposition to where when these mold mycotoxins enter into your human body, your body doesn't create antibodies to fight them out, or it doesn't actually attack it or detox it. And I didn't know this, but I had that gene that made me susceptible. Who the heck knows their genes? I just knew I was renting a house. I had no idea that my genes were faulty, and that I had a faulty gene, that when this mycotoxin came in, my body wasn't going to recognize that mycotoxin, wasn't going to create antibodies. So this mycotoxin was literally able to kill me. And now what I actually have faced is to the point where I can't go to Starbucks and have coffee anymore, because within a few hours, my kidneys will start killing me. I cannot have any kind of just McDonald's anymore, or any kind of moldy foods. And so basically, because of this whole journey, I've had to learn all these things, and I ended up getting extremely sick. I lost all my belongings over and over and over again. I've been displaced to the point where I've lived in my car. Just this month alone, I had to sleep in my car twice because of the cross-contamination nightmare that I've had to live. But it has been
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Crazy.
And one of the things that, and I really do appreciate opening up, you know, your heart and your life, and some of the things that really, not just how you were affected with mold, but the effects of mold and how it affected your personal life. One of the common denominators that we're seeing with a lot of the people that are coming to us, you know, opening their hearts and just wanting to share this testimony, is that it gets to the point where even their doctors, when they can't treat them anymore, they want to pass them over either to a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Yeah, everybody thinks you're crazy. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say next.
Yeah.
I mean, even your family and the extended family, they really do come to a point where they think that you are mentally ill.
Yeah. So one of the crazy things, which I was kind of telling you earlier, is that so I walked into a house and I was desensitized. So what desensitized means is that your immune system actually protects you. I didn't realize until this happened to me, until I you know, got the condition of chronic inflammatory response and biotoxin illness. I didn't realize how much your immune system really protects you from the outside invaders and all of these toxins that we're being bombarded with in our foods, in the environment, in the foods we eat. I didn't realize until now. I'm like, wow, like our immune systems really do protect us. And so when my immune system was basically went out of whack, it went crazy. And it started like, you know, kind of, because when all these toxins came in, it didn't recognize it. So my immune system started going crazy. So it gave me chronic inflammation in my gut and in my brain by the foods I would eat. If I would go near that mold, immediately my body, I was so hypersensitive to the mold because I became what they call sensitized. So when you're desensitized, you'll go into a moldy restaurant or you'll eat moldy food, your body doesn't feel anything. So what happened to me is that I actually became sensitized through this whole process because of such a high level of, you know, biotoxins, mycotoxins that I was exposed to, that I ended up getting sensitized. So now I'm a little bit of a human mold detector. And it is kind of like a little bit of a superpower that I never asked for and I never wanted to have. But I can literally tell you every single item that has mold. And my mom's house got cross-contaminated because we brought moldy items. My boyfriend's house got cross-contaminated because we brought moldy items into the house and we didn't know. And so now I cannot go near my mom's house. I can't even go near my daughter's grandmother's house because I swell up like a blowfish and I get extremely ill. Like I actually swell up, and I can show you pictures which I'll provide to you of what happens to my gut, and imagine that same feeling happens in my brain.
Yeah, that's
so
horrible.
My brain took a huge hit with, just for renting a house.
Yeah.
Imagine.
No, that's crazy. Now, you also mentioned that the level of contamination that you've been able to detect, and I mean, even as mold experts in the field, what we do is we have a variety of, you know, sampling and mapping techniques that we do to try to figure out, you know, what the sources are, where the mold is at, and so on and so forth. But I hear what you're saying because I myself, my body will detoxify, but
mine doesn't.
I've had the, you know, I've had the fungal sinusitis, I've had the infection of the lungs.
Aspergillosis.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what ended up happening was that I would visit, you know, clients, and in the beginning, you know, they had their little children running around, and I'm trying to educate them with a full face mask or even the N95 minimum protection, and you can't hear, I'm all muffled up, and my message is more important than anything else. And it's crazy because I know that I would take my mask off and I would smell it immediately, and it was like a pile of bricks hitting my brain, and it would swell up, and I would get some of these symptoms. Luckily, you know, I was able to detoxify.
Right.
But the crazy part is that, you know, how out of this world is it that it takes us and our system, our immune system, to really know when there's a mold issue. Because I could walk into a restaurant, I'm sure you could, you can go into the store, and there's so many different people that even in the supermarket, for instance, you know, I'll walk by somebody and it's a cute little old lady, or even at church or something like that, and then all of a sudden, you know, you tell your significant other, I want to help this person out because they have mold in their house. Like, how do you know?
Yeah,
and I don't know if you go out to the part
I'm
where
a human mold
detector.
I can tell you.
It's absolutely crazy, and it may be a little bit funny, but at the same time, it's so sad to know that this is a prevalent issue. It affects a lot of different people in many different ways at the, you know, the capacity that you can't even imagine. So, you know, you've gone to the point where, you know, everyone or a lot of the people that are around you, they just, it's hard to believe. It's not like they don't want to believe you. it's hard to believe
because they don't feel anything.
Because they don't feel anything, and they've been probably in the same environment. And like you said, it's the percentage of the population that actually
has faulty genes.
Or that even because, I mean, the thing about mold that I've learned is even if you don't have faulty genes, but
it's
your level
toxic.
of contamination with a mold species like Stachybotrys, which is
dead.
okay. Even if you don't have, if you have a strong, you're Iron Man or Iron Woman, and you're gonna feel the effects, and you're gonna feel the inflammatory effects of the mold. And so when you got to the process and you got some of the doctors going, how was it exactly? Did you learn a lot about mold on your own? Or what advice can you give the viewers as to when they start feeling these symptoms? I have a lot of people calling me, and now we're directing them into the right position. Right. I mean, I think this approach and this movement, as I call it, and you're part of it right now. And, by the way, I also want to share that you're more than amenable and willing to talk to anybody, really that has been contaminated by mold, and willing to help them out, because this is what it's all about. It's just people pulling somebody else out of this mold hole that if you let it go, and you may not even get out of this place, because it's such a dark, nasty place that it'll follow you everywhere. And the level of contamination will get to the point where you have to do certain I don't want to say rituals, but certain practices and different things that you need to do to be able to detoxify a person. Like, tell us a little bit, for instance, about the ocean and your daughter, and what has to happen, for you to feel, at least have the peace of mind and not feel those symptoms that you described.
If you're thinking that there's mold in your life, number one, first step to recovery is removing yourself from the moldy environment. Okay, that's number one. A lot of the times, people don't really understand that when you have Aspergillus or you have Stachybotrys, they say just leave it all behind. And that is something that is very hard to do. I had to do it, not just once, but over and over and over again, because I didn't realize the cross-contamination issue that I was about to face, and the fact that I was going to be able to feel everything. But a lot of people, in order to get that out of their life, need to just make a clean break and leave it all behind. Some people are not willing to do that if they don't have my genes, or they don't have, that sensibility, but it will, follow you.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately. So as far as the doctors and stuff, I mean, I was desperate in my attempt to find help, to find answers, to find somebody who knew what I was dealing with. Through my research online, I obviously, came to find Dr. Richie Shoemaker, who is kind of like the godfather of mold. He, all of his expertise, I mean, he has books. He's obviously very knowledgeable about this area. So I called him, and it was, it was $8 a minute to talk to him, but it was worth every penny, because when I talked to him, he was able to point me to the right doctor that actually was knowledgeable, because prior to him, I had gone to some doctor that didn't know what he was talking about and made me do some rinky-dink tests and wanted me to get on this and that, but I knew that it was a little bit more than what he was telling me, because doctors are going to make money, but you need to find somebody that really understands mold toxicity, that really understands mycotoxins, that really understands conditions like what you can get due to toxic mold exposure. So I ended up getting referred to by Dr. Richie Shoemaker to Dr. Tanio, who is, I discovered, is the only doctor here in the state of Florida, in Hollywood.
It's incredible. One doctor in the state of Florida.
One doctor. The other second one that was the closest was in North Carolina, and there was a couple of what I call Dr. Richie Maker disciples, or that they've been trained in his protocol. So I went to this doctor. He gave me cholestyramine, which is a medication that I now have to take 4 times a day to manually take out the toxins out of my body. I've since recovered a lot thanks to that medicine, and then also detoxing, taking activated charcoal, going to saunas, infrared saunas, help tremendously to detox at the cellular level all these toxins, because your body was not created by God for it to have toxins. This is what happens basically when mycotoxins enter the human body is like you have what they call your T cells, and what happens is when these mycotoxins come in, they're like, hey guys, we're the new bosses in town. We're taking over, and all of you are fired. that's kind of what goes on in your body. And so then your body's like, what? You know, it freaks out, and then you start getting all these symptoms. So I've actually been able to help multiple people kind of detect mold in their house, where one lady, for example, she heard through the grapevine that I was a little bit of a human mold detector, and she said, hey, I keep getting all these rashes. I just bought this new house, and I'm getting all these rashes on my skin. I know something's wrong, but I don't know if I have mold or not. So they're like, hey, Gladys, can you come in and let us know? You know, I literally pulled up to the house, got right next to the glass doors. I swelled up like a blowfish, and I go, yeah, you definitely have mold in your house. I then gave her a number to a mold remediation company like yours. They came in, and what they found, Joelle, was insane. It was so bad in her attic, in her ventilation system. Everything was so bad that they literally had to call a third-party company to come out and do the remediation company, you know, or the remediation for the mold issue that she didn't even know that she had, but she kept getting all these rashes because everybody kind of reacts differently. Some people get fatigue, some people get severe brain fog, memory loss has definitely hit me like a ton of bricks.
Right.
You know, everybody has different reactions to it. But anyways, back to the beach thing. And now, ever since this happened, because my baby's dad's house got cross-contaminated and my mom's house got cross-contaminated, every time my daughter goes to her dad's house, she basically comes back like a mop of spores. So I can't even go near my daughter right now.
Wow.
Even if I wanted to, because I swell up like a blowfish. Like I literally physically suffer ever since I got this condition. So I have to go to, like right now, in order for me to get my daughter's back, knowing that she's inhaling toxic mold spores at the, you know, I know you're going to help me remediate that, but knowing that she's inhaling these things, since I feel everything and I became sensitized when I go near my daughter, we have to go to the beach just to, like, she has to bathe for like a couple of hours just to, like, you know, clean her off from the spores. I have to buy new clothes for her every single time. So
everything you have to go
the
through.
Thousands and thousands of dollars that I've lost because of mold, only God knows.
Yeah.
So I had to buy new clothes. Four Thieves really helps to kill the mold spores because it's a blend of essential oils. So I put that kind of on her hair because really her hair comes back like a, you know, really bad, like full of spores, and I feel it all.
You become a detector, so it's you know, cross-contamination has in your life gotten to a level where it's just a matter of, you know, so hypersensitive that it's not even about transferring things that are contaminated. It's actually being clean, stepping into that or environment, and then coming back and bringing over that contamination. I mean, that level of contamination is something, you know, that it's a mystery. And you know, at the end of the day, only you can tell. You're the one that feels the effects. I mean, prior to what you were saying about what, you know, you were talking about the biotoxin pathway and once mold enters your body, what it does. And essentially, that's exactly what mold was designed to do. Forget about the body for 1 second. If we had mold right here in this wall, okay, the stronger species that produce these mycotoxins, I don't know if you know this, but they were designed to compete each other for that organic material. They all want to have the food, which is the organic material. So it's almost like once you have a toxic mold overpowering a section that's very wet, it's almost like a gang member in a corner, not letting any of the other mold species take that spot. So what ends up happening is that gang member, you know, let's call it MS-13, okay, of mold, which is Stachybotrys, you know, invades your body, okay, then it's going to be able, then it's going to want to do the same thing as you perfectly described. Guys, I'm here and we're in control.
You know, and we're going to rule and reign until we kill you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like you were telling me earlier of one of your testimonials of one of your customers, it did kill one of their children and they had to give them a box of ashes. And this is a very serious like problem in America, and it's one of the most misdiagnosed illnesses that exists in the United States today. You know, we have thousands, maybe 50% of, you know, of water damaged buildings that have mold. And so I didn't realize, I had no idea that, you know, mold in my AC was gonna alter my life and change my life the way it has a year and a half ago, like losing everything over and over and over and over again, like losing thousands of dollars, not being able to go near my mom or, you know, my daughter, having to go through these rituals, like just my health going from amazing to, oh my gosh, like almost dying, to now everything I eat affects my kidneys.
If you have a strong immune system and you have a strong HLA, it doesn't necessarily mean that when you are getting contaminated with mold, because you have latent defect and you have mold hidden inside the walls of your property, home, workplace, or wherever the contamination is, for those hours and those years and those times that mold does not get eradicated, they're going to feel those effects. Now, if you have a strong HLA, down the future, your body will self-detoxify, and, you know, it'll eliminate these spores. But for those people and those patients, you know, such as yourself, that have that, you know, ultra gene, you will, and thank you for that, you will have all these effects. I mean, and it ranges. You know, we already know just from learning so much about mold that it'll get to the point where you could have, and if you study a different group, they will have a series of these symptoms, but at least one person will have one of the symptoms on a daily basis. Sure. It may vary, and it varies, like I've always said, you know, with the chronic headaches, skin rashes, stomach aches, leaky gut. I mean, there's so many different things, you know, and these are all the physical symptoms, guys, because what ends up happening is when it goes into the neurological system, there's going to be the neurotoxin, and you're going to have the fogginess, you're going to have the memory loss, fatigue, and not only that, but depression. Tell me about that. I mean, depression is a big one, because it's the one that's easily chalked up to mental illness, and the doctors can easily, like I say, wash your hands and say, well, I've done my job, I've put them on this course of treatment, I've done everything that I could, but this patient is really having mental illness, and then they transfer them, or they refer them out to the psychologist or psychiatrist, and then they go on all these drugs, and to think that they're taking all these psychiatric drugs that are doing absolutely nothing to the biotoxin and the toxicity that they have in their system, right?
First of all, having toxins in your body and having a condition like chronic inflammatory response syndrome, having any kind of inflammation in your body is the root cause to all kinds of diseases. You know, lupus, cancer, you know, all kinds of different degenerative diseases that you can get from mycotoxins entering into your body. I have a friend of mine named Angie who was exposed to a really, really moldy, toxic house, and now she has lupus. All of a sudden, because if it's not treated. So just because you don't have my gene and you don't get to the extent that maybe I got, where I got the chronic inflammation and my body started freaking out because my genes didn't recognize this, you know, mycotoxin as a bad thing, doesn't mean that mold mycotoxin and aflatoxin that's in your body is not doing damage. First of all, your body was not created to inhale toxic air every day, all day. And so it is still doing damage to your cells at the cellular level. It's still causing, you know, free radicals in your body. You understand? The best way that I can describe it, if I can give you an analogy, is like having a plant. You know, a plant was created to survive with three things: water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide, right? So if I get a Coke and I open the Coke and I pour it in the plant right now, what's going to happen to it? What do you think is going to happen to it? Now, if I get that Coke and I pour it into that plant day after day after day after day after day, then it's gonna die.
The constant exposure and the constant...
Exactly, because that plant was not created by God to survive off of Coke. That plant was created by God to survive off of water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide. Much like that plant is your body. Your body was created to survive off of air, you know, clean air. And when you're putting yourself in an environment where you're inhaling toxic mold spores, whether you have a good, strong immune system or you have my faulty genetic predisposition, which 28% of the population does have, it's still doing damage to your body. So number one, you need to remove yourself out of that environment. You know, if you can, obviously, you know, leave everything behind. If it doesn't affect you, then you can remediate the house. You can call someone like Dr. Mold who can remediate the house. He has expertise in this area. He also has different, lighting systems that they can put on your air conditioning to really, kill the mycotoxins in your house and rid yourself of the problem. Like, this is not a joke, guys. Like, don't take this lightly. It has cost me everything I own multiple times. It's left me sleeping in a car. I've lost thousands and thousands of dollars. I can't go near my family anymore. I've had to, feel like sometimes, you're going crazy, but you're not. Like, having to really, really go through something like this has been probably the worst living nightmare that a person can actually go to. And none of us are immune from it. Any of us can go into a house completely normal and come out completely, sensitized. So this is very, very serious. Don't take it lightly. Get educated. Even the Bible, I'm a believer, and it says that the people perish because of lack of knowledge. Don't ever let that be you. Don't ever have lack of knowledge, because it can cost you your life.
Absolutely. And your testimony is just evidence that this is happening for a reason, because we want to get this information out there. We want to let people know that this thing can actually ruin their lives. I mean, a lot of the things that we're doing right now is really getting to the root of the problem. Let's just stop putting, the Band-Aids on the symptoms,
right,
and getting on a course of treatment that's not going to work. This is what we enforce, and we are encouraging doctors, even psychologists, psychiatrists. We have a laundry list of people that we want to get to, and through the Shoemaker model, I want to be that liaison. I want to be that advocate to get to all these people, get the knowledge, and maybe have them go through a curriculum where, like you said, I love the word you use, disciples. Mm-hmm. We have one guy in the entire state of Florida that you could really go to with everything that we have with Vaughn. I mean, it's almost like, it's kind of like a joke if you think about it. Yeah. When you have all these specialties and everything, and pharmaceutical companies are the first ones that will argue, about this, based on standard text medicine and everything else like that. But this is something that we want to make sure that Mr. Mold, I like the fact that you call Dr. Mold, but it's Mr. Mold.
Sorry.
You said that because in combination with Dr. Mold, which is Shoemaker, we're doing something big here, hopefully in the future.
Yeah,
so
hopefully we can really help create awareness of how serious this really is, and how many people are suffering, and they don't even know that they're suffering, because it mimics all of these different symptoms. Like this lady that I helped, she was getting rashes. So she doesn't know. She thought she ate something at a restaurant and got an allergic response. This person's just another girl that I helped, Deanna, in Orlando. She was like, Gladys, I'm so fatigued. I'm so tired. I can't even work. I'm exhausted, and I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I'm so tired. I went to her house, and it was like I couldn't even go near her because my head swelled up like a roofer. I go, you have mold in your life. You have mold in your house. She's since got the house remediated. She's not fatigued anymore. She detoxed her body, and now she's in a better place.
Yes.
So there is hope, but you have to not just brush it off, because it can cost you your life, it can cost you your belongings like it did me, and most importantly, it can cost you your health like it did to me.
Absolutely. And talking about costing different things in your life, aside from the list you just mentioned, relationships, it's very important, because it could cost you relationships. And here's the crazy thing, guys. I mean, you may be thinking that a lot of people think that they're having their run of the day problems in their marriage, here and there and the other, and that's what's causing the person to get depressed. But we're learning, okay, that the depression and some of these, the lethargy, the depression, the chronic fatigue, not wanting to get out of bed, having, some people call me and tell me, I feel like I need to get scraped out of bed. That's how weak I am. I don't want to do anything. I don't have motivation. My kids want to go out on the weekends. My husband is getting tired of the situation. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these complaints are coming to the table, and all of a sudden, there's problems in the marriage. There's problems that, listen, we all have problems. We all have problems in our marriages. But the truth of the matter is, do you guys know if this is coming from the place where you least expected, which is your environment? So a simple test can actually tell volumes about what's going on with your environment. We at Mr. Mold here, the whole point of this conversation is not just Mr. Mold doing the testing and as I call it, the forensic investigation, and the also the remediations. I mean, we have some clients, ranging from the smallest home to the biggest commercial property, that those testimonies about how we work, how we do, and the pride that we do in our work is bar none. But I don't want to stop there. I want to be just like you, to get that information and get them. If you got mold contamination and you have problems where you're feeling sick, let me guide you in the right direction. And now that we know the pathway of the doctors that will treat for mold, we'll get you the conversations with, the Dr. Shoemaker, like she said, he's available on the phone. He's a very busy doctor. He's handling cases from not just, he's retired, but he's handling cases. His passion, his passion, from what I know, is to be able to help people just like us. So I'm sure that if he can't do it, he'll get the right person to do it.
Right.
But don't keep, wondering if your house has any problems. Take that first step. Get your house tested. If you do find something, make sure you get it remediated the right way with the proper equipment, with the containments and everything else.
Yeah, because if you do have a mold problem and you end up getting symptoms and you go to like your regular doctor, they're gonna give you a misdiagnosis, and they're probably gonna give you,
so important.
No, they're gonna give you probably antibiotics for whatever. And I learned that antibiotics has mold in it. You understand? A lot of the antibiotics is made out of mold. Penicillin is a mold.
Right. Not only that, but antibiotics is
it makes it worse.
Bacteria,
exactly.
And we're treating fungal infections,
things, and it makes everything worse.
So it's
if you don't go to the right doctor, or you go to the wrong doctor who's completely clueless, you're only gonna make problems worse in your body. So A, you have to know that you have a problem. B, you have to go to the right doctor that can get you the right results for the problem that you have, so you don't waste your time, you don't waste your money, you don't waste your efforts and your emotion, because a lot of emotional, stress can go into having a mold problem in your life. I mean, it can completely stress you out.
Absolutely. So, in efforts to wrap this up, I wanted to thank you so much. I do appreciate you helping me get this awareness out there, because it's so important. We want to make sure that we get this and, share this. We want people to share this video. We want to make sure that people that have been contaminated, or someone, make sure that you just share the video, get the information out there. And just remember, if you want to win the indoor air quality fight, Mr. Mold will purify your air at the speed of light. Mr. Mold out. Hey guys, Mr. Mold here, and I just wanted to briefly say thank you for all the people that have been looking at our videos. We've sort of become like the voice of everyone that has been affected by mold in one way or the other. Thank you for sending us your family, your friends, and also asking all the wonderful questions. We're here to answer anything you have. If you like the videos that we've been posting and you like the information that you're getting, and there's going to be a lot more, believe you me, just subscribe. Hit the button to subscribe. We love to get more of you listening to our videos and watching our infomercials and our modules, so you guys can learn everything there is to know about mold exposure. And remember, if you want to win the indoor air quality fight, Mr. Mold will purify your air at the speed of light. Mr. Mold, out.